Okay, some students of mine are making interactive things with TouchDesigner, and some of them look like kind of games. And I don't think TouchDesigner is the exact right tool for making a game, but I thought, can I just do kind of like the basics of a 2D thing where I've got a character or something that follows my mouse or a keyboard, and maybe it bashes into walls or picks things up or gets killed by things. All of those require that we have some way of knowing when the circle collides with the rectangles and being able to place the rectangles on the screen. So what I've come up with is a way to do both of those things. If you look over here at these two operators, you can see that as I go over the left one, it registers a hit, and the same for the right one. And so they're each individually addressable, which means I could, when I hit this one, maybe make it disappear or something like that. Or of course, just, knowing that I hit one of them is useful, either one, but knowing which one I hit is also useful. So I'm going to show you how I ended up there, and hopefully we can reproduce this thing in the same way. It's been a couple days since I did it. So the first thing is, let me just get rid of everything and add a circle top, which is going to be my guy. I will change the resolution. Let me make sure I'm recording here. I am recording. Okay. I'll change the resolution to 720p, and I'll just keep everything at 720p. 0.2 seems like too big. 0.02? 0.03. Let's do 0.03 for the size of my circle, and I'll just give it some color. And then what I want to do is have the circle follow my mouse around. I could do this with a keyboard, but the mouse is very easy. We'll add a panel chop, which gives us tons of information about where the mouse is on screen and all of that. But the ones that we're actually interested in, the two channels, are called roll U and roll V. So I will just put those two names of channels here. They give me numbers that are between 0 and 1, so I'd like to use a math to change the range to negative 0.5 to 0.5. That will kind of fit this range. And then I will just add a null here and make those become the center X and Y for the circle. Okay, that should be working. Let me add an out here, and what I'm going to do, instead of just jumping into perform mode, because OBS doesn't seem to like recording perform mode for me, I'm going to go back into the root and click on perform and then choose open as separate window, and it is working. And I think what I'll do is, because this is going to be a persistent thing where I have to keep going back and forth, I will just split the panes, and in this one I'll go into my network. And what I'd like to do is change this open as separate window so that I can trigger it from in here with a button. So I'm going to add a button comp, and I'm just going to call it perform. It should be a momentary button, and I don't want it to show up on the actual screen in the perform window, so I will change the display to be off. If I just add a null here and make that viewer active, I should be able to just drag that over to this button, and it should now perform. Yeah, perfect. So I will stick with that, and that's that. Now, the next thing is, how can I make many things show up on the screen? So what I did before was I used a table to kind of capture all the information about those separate things. If I go to set size here and say that there are 4 rows, let's go 3 rows and 4 columns. Each of those columns is the X location, the Y location, the width, and the height of a rectangle. And I'll just add like negative 0.1, negative 0.1. I'll make this 0.2, 0.1, and maybe this one's 0.1, 0.1, and I'll do the opposite here. Okay, so what I want is for it to create rectangles like that. And I think, what I can do is use the replicator chop. There it is. And I can add a rectangle. So let's again change the resolution here to be 720p, and I'll make it, just for now, I'll make it smaller. It doesn't matter because I'm going to get the size from here. So let's change the size. I think what we should be able to do is, well, first of all, the replicator, what it does is pair this rectangle with that table. And the way I can do that is by dragging this table on here and saying that's the template dat table. And then drag this on here and say this is the master operator. So what I get is two rectangles. Whoops. I get two rectangles that are essentially like reproduced from this original one. Those are the ones that I'm interested in, item 1 and item 2. But what I want is for the size to come from the table. So let me just do, I think it should just be operator table 1, and we want item number. So I think what we want is to actually, I don't want to put like row number 1. What I want is for item number 1 to get it from row number 1 and item number 2 to get it from row number 2. So what I can do is use the numeric part of their name, and that should be the way that I can have it address the right thing. So let's see, I will go to here, and instead of putting in 1, I will put in me.digits. That means, I think that means like this guy, his digit part of his name. So it'll be 1. And then I want the X, I think. Yeah, okay. So, and then I will do the same over here for Y. I'll do the same thing for the width and height. Where's the width and height? Oh, wait, that's size. So this should be width and height. And then I'll just copy this. And for center, I'll do the same thing. Center X should be X. Center Y should be Y. And you'll see that mine is changing here, but it's not changing over here for these two. And what I have to do is click here and choose recreate all operators. So it will move them back down, which is a little frustrating, but you can see it has made 2 of those rectangles that correspond to the X, Y width height of the what's in the table. So that's great. Now, what I found is like, what I really want is to not just make rectangles. What I want is to figure out how to register a collision between a rectangle and my circle. And then I can replicate that. So if I can make a component that allows me to both put a rectangle on screen and give me some information about whether it's colliding with the circle or not, that's the thing that I'm going to replicate. So we're going to go backward on this, but I wanted to show first how the replicator works. So what if over here here's my circle, right? There's the circle right there. Let's see if I can just make a collision get registered. And this is partly from a video that I saw, so I'll give credit to that person. But if let's say I just have, I have my rectangle here, right? I want to see if that and this collide with each other. So what I can do is do a comp and put it right there. And we're going to do a multiply. So as you know, if I multiply these two, it's only going to show something if they overlap. So let me click my perform button. And when they overlap, I get something showing up on screen. Great. So it's either nothing, just alpha, or it's something. So the way I can get information about what's happening on screen is to do an analyze. And for this, let's bring the perform window back up and see if it gives us anything right now. It doesn't right now. But what I need is to choose the right operation here. So if I choose maximum pixel, it should, I think that's all right. Like it should work. So let me open perform again. Can I just make this smaller? Okay. So if I go over that part, where is it? Oh, there we go. So it turns into a full kind of pixel, right? Which then we could turn into a chop. Let's do that. Top to chop. And what we should get is, especially if we only care about the one of the values. We don't care about RGBA, but we will see that it all changes to random things. But you can see the alpha turns from 0 to 1. There is like a little bit of a weird moment where it shows as a high decimal number, but I don't think that's going to affect us at all. So I'm not going to worry about it. But I don't care about red, green, or blue, so I'll just erase those, and I only have an alpha channel. And in fact, I can rename that to like hit, And what that means is now when I go over this, it actually shows as 0 or 1, depending on whether I hit or not. So that's perfect. This is actually exactly what I want to be able to tell if the rectangle is colliding with the circle. So let me make a component to do this. I will drag all this stuff, and can I copy? Let's cut. Let's cut that. And let's add a base component and then paste that. Ooh, did that not work? Oh, that didn't work. Can I go back? Let me go back a couple. Okay, we've got all this. Can I highlight all of this? Well, let's just highlight all of this and make a component. Collapse selected. Okay, we don't care about these right now. I'll disconnect those. But what I want is to be able to take an input, which is the circle. So this is going to be the input that's coming. That's the circle is going to get tapped in here. And then I think I actually want to draw the rectangle. So let me go back up. Instead of drawing the rectangle here, I'll copy and paste it here. So there's my rectangle. Has all the right information. Of course, it's complaining. Let's see why. Let's get rid of this. I want this to be comped with the incoming circle. So why is it complaining? None type is not scriptable, right? This is a really common error. It means that we're trying to address something that doesn't exist. And that's because there is no table 1 in this little mini network component that we made. So what I can do is just say, go back up a level. And I think that could work. Only, yeah, same here. Okay, that does work. Now, there is another problem, which is up above, I was using my my digits, right? So that meant, or me dot digits. So that meant take the number right here, a 1 or a 2, and that did work. But now when I'm in the base component, it doesn't work anymore because me dot digits is referring to the rectangle. So it's always going to be 1. So that's something I discovered as I was going through this. So what that means is, since I'm going to be replicating the base, I'll get an item 1 over here for base, an item 2 over here, that's another base replicated. So I really want to look at not me.digits, because that's the rectangle. I want to look at the parent. So that's going to be the number associated with the base that I'm in. A little difficult. I mean, I'd rather just show you the problem and then go back and fix this, but it's a little difficult to see it happening. Basically, they all look the same because they're just getting 1 every time instead of getting 1 for item 1, 2 for item 2, and so on. So I don't see any errors. I think this is it. But in addition to this, should actually work. If I feed the circle in here, we should get this to do the same thing. I'm not even going to try it because this is exactly what I had before. The only difference is I also want an output from this base that is the actual image of the rectangle, because at this point it's not actually drawing an image, right? So I'm going to just take the rectangle and add an out. Okay, I'm going to make this one red. So the red one is the actual image coming out. So let's go back up one. What I've done is I've made a component that takes in one input, which is the circle. Let me tag it in here. And it should have 2 outputs. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't have this as an output. Let's add another output here. So this is called hit. I could rename this, but I think the channel name will give us a clue. So there are 2 outputs. One is the output that is hit or not, and the other is the actual image. So let's see what the next step is. I think at this point I could go backward and do the replicator again. I'll get rid of everything except for that table because I like the table. But now instead of replicating a rectangle, I'm going to do a replicator comp. And I'm going to say, yes, this is the table template. And then this is the master operator. So what I've gotten is 2 different bases. It even fed in the circle, so that's good. And what I should get from each of these is, I think I can just, no, that turns on. Okay, so the viewer just shows the visual. But what I would like is also to see what this looks like. So let me just add a little null here. And by little, I mean I'm going to make it smaller. So I'll add a null. Make this one smaller. So what I should see is that, I mean, is it working already? It may be working already. Let's see. Yeah, it's working already, right? Now we can't see them. We can't see the rectangles because we haven't comped them together with the circle, but I could do that. Like, and you know, to comp them together, it's interesting because I think, let's add a comp here. It's a little tricky because I should be able to just add another row to this table and have it work still, but I don't think it will because this comp, if I drag each of these outputs over to here, that's not gonna work. So I think I may be able to comp using this. Like, can I do item asterisk? Don't know if that works. Comp item. Oh, it's not the one I want to mess with, is it? No, this is, I want to add these together. So I should be seeing like, or over. I should see all of the parts here, but that doesn't seem to do it. I thought adding tops there would help. What if I add like, oh, because it's not item one, it's, well, it is, right? Well, whatever the case, it does not seem to be working. I should see the rectangles if that was going to work. So I'm not totally sure about this part, but you know, I can take these and comp them in with this, and I'll see the rectangles show up. I'll have to work on that part. But you know, right now it is going to work. Like I go over here and it shows me hitting that one. Go over here and it shows me hitting that one. So I think that's basically it. Kind of came together very quickly. This looks like a mess, but it's actually kind of like auto-generated every time you go to the replicator and choose recreate all operators. So that also means that it could be a mess because every time you hit that, it seems to move these down below, and you'll just have to accommodate the rest of the network to not get smushed by it when that happens. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. Maybe I'll try something else, but I'll say now we're done. I was able to reproduce that, and if you hang on, maybe there'll be a little bit of a bonus. So let's try this. I'm going to say I don't really care about these nulls being here. Let me get rid of this null and this null. Really what I'm interested in is maybe changing the color of this rectangle when they collide, right? So, or making it disappear. So let's do that. Like this is a hit, right? So let's say if hit turns to 1, then this should disappear. So what's the easiest way to do that? I think, you know, let's just say like we'd do like a, I think it might be an easier way, but let's say we do a logic and invert. Mind channels, nope. On when equal to 0. Okay, so as I do this, we see that it goes the opposite, right? That's one way that we could do it. We could also do a math. There's like different ways, but this means that it will be a 1 when we're not colliding and then a 0 when we are. Now, we could take this value. Let me make this go to a null. And we could take this value and make that the alpha of the rectangle. Okay. So now every time, what's that? Cook loop dependency. Okay. Is that a problem? I guess that's a problem. Well, how about this? Ooh, here's let's do it differently. What I can do is leave that alone. Leave that as 1. And I could make the output switch between the rectangle or nothing. So let's do this. This will be, let's say we take this and make that the index of the switch. So whenever there's a hit, well, I'd expect it to disappear, but let's try, right? Yeah, it's looking at item number 1 of that, which there isn't one. I guess I could do 0 or -1. I think that's a trick. Let's see. So I'll do math, multiply this times -1, and whenever there's a hit, it turns to -1. Let's just make that a null and drag that over here to the switch index. No? Okay. I thought that worked. If we did, oh, wait, it's not changing. -1. Null 1. Why is that not changing? Does it not like -1? I thought that worked. Okay. What else have we got? I guess we could do like a, seems crazy, but I could do like a, oh, maybe I can go between a null. Like, can I do, no, a null needs an input, right? Okay. Let's try a constant. And this will be like alpha 0. That's the second one. So let's skip that. Okay. I love that it gets fuzzy when that happens because this constant is not the right resolution. Let's just change this to 720p. Okay, well that does work, right? And this one should work, but it's not. So I think that's because we have to go back up here and maybe recreate the operators. Okay, let's move everything so that it's not weird. So these guys go there. Okay, that's not working. Oh, what happened? I lost it. Okay, that seems to work. Okay, let's go back up, recreate the operators. Why is it not working? Oh, because they're not comped. Okay. So I really want to figure that out, how to make this composite work with those tops. So how could I do that? Okay, here's the bonus. I don't think I'm going to go backward, but I will show you where I ended up. So if I right click, it brings them all back. And if I hit them, they go away, which is pretty cool. So the way that I was able to make this happen is I found out how to make that comp include whatever number of these items there are. Instead of actually dragging them over, if I add another row here, which I'll try at the end, see how badly it breaks. If I add another row, I should see a third one show up and it should be combined with the comp with the circle. So if I look in here, it actually required some Python, which I'll admit I got some help from Claude because I'm not a Python person, but it looks like I'm taking this space and I'm using that to join the things that are in parentheses. The things that are in parentheses is actually a for loop. It's saying set this variable O to each item in a list of operators that start with item. So then in this case, it's item 1, item 2. So O will be item 1 in one case, item 2 in the next. and then they'll get joined by spaces. So literally what we have is operator item 1 gets put in here, and then item 2 gets put in here. I'm not sure why the whole absolute path gets put in there, but it did. It's fine. And then I added this plus slash out 1. And that's because we have inside that operator, item 1 or item 2, there's an out 1 operator, a top, which feeds this output here. So rather than trying to access the top output here, which I could not make happen, instead I just went inside here and referenced the operator right here called out 1. So it's kind of a little bit of work, but paid off, I think, because it allows me to have kind of like a variable list of tops that get included in the comp. So that's cool. That's one thing. The other thing is, well, is that? Oh, I think what I changed in the base composition is, or container, is that I added a hold here so that when there is a hit, it holds that value. So I've connected both the value here and the trigger. That means when it becomes 1 here, this will stay 1 forever. And then that becomes a null and becomes the switch here. So it's until there's a hit, it's always referencing item number 0. See, from that null, it's just a 0. And then as soon as there is a hit and that turns to 1, it will stay 1 forever. And then it switches to this blank constant. Now, that's good, except that every time I go back into the perform window, it's still going to show it missing. So they would show up missing forever. So the last thing I did was to be able to have like kind of a reset. I added the rSelect, which is the right mouse click. And in the process and the math, I made sure that I was only dealing with roll U and roll V instead of also changing the range of rSelect, because that would be weird. And then I think right here, I'm referencing that inside the base. Where am I referencing that? Right here in hold. I'm referencing that null from one level up, null 1, and the rSelect channel, and that becomes the hold pulse, which says right in this moment, hit the pulse button, which kind of resets the hold. Now that only works, there's a kind of a little detail here, that only works if I'm not over one of these, right? If I right click, it won't come back. So I have to be out here and then right click. So that doesn't work, right? But I don't care. That's fine. This is pretty cool. All right. Good luck.